Today we're going to be learning about how to retouch your images. Retouching can be done in Lightroom through two of these tools up here. The first one that I'm going to be going through is the Remove tool, which looks like a little eraser. And if I hover over it, you can see that it says the Remove tool. And then over here we also have the Masking tool, and I will show you how to use that as well. So I've selected a couple images for me to demo with today. And for this particular assignment, you're going to be given some images to specifically retouch and instructions on what to do with them exactly. So with this first image, I did play around with a couple little settings here, but I just reset it to the beginning. And also, some of these are virtual copies, which I grabbed from a different collection. So this is also a virtual copy. So what I did is I created a new collection called Retouch, and then for the assignment that you'll do, there will be specific instructions on what to do. But basically what I did is I went through my project one folder, or just my general like Dropbox of photos, my folder of photos. And I found some images to demo with, like this one, and then I just right clicked and went to create virtual copy. And if you remember from last time, sorry, that is the virtual copy. So right here, this is the image that I kind of played with, or seems like I just reset the settings. So I wanted it as is out of camera, and then right click, go to create virtual copy. And then what that's going to do is going to give you another image with all the history gone except for what you've done. So like any edits you've made. And I know we've already talked about this before. I can see the clipping in my images. This is not that video for that. But let's just say I make this properly exposed here. Which is hard to do because this image has a lot of brights, and so I might not be able to avoid my clipping here. Anyways, not the point of this video, sorry. But basically, I would make my adjustments, and then from there get the photo that the way that the way that I like the photo rather, with the edits that I've made. Right click, go to create virtual copy, and then that's basically going to flatten everything, which is another term to learn, which is a term that's referred through in Photoshop. When you flatten an image, that means you're compressing all of the information and you can't basically get that information back. So that is why the history is cleared when you go to create virtual copy. And you can do this, you can create a virtual copy many times, so you have many different options to choose from and different versions to play with. So we have talked about creating virtual copies in past videos, so you should know how to do that. But anyways, now going into the retouch folder here, the first image I'm going to go into is actually, let's go to this one. I know this image isn't the best example image quality wise because we have a lot of clipping happening here because of the nature of this image, the lighting. It was a dark environment. I wanted to capture the lit up pieces in the store, but with that also came with these blown out lights. So I know not the greatest image, but it has a lot of things to play with when I zoom in. So I'm already in the develop module. Again, the develop module is where we get to edit and have fun with our photos. So I'm going to move over to this tool right here, the remove tool. So I'm going to click on that. You can see I've played around with a little of these things here. If you select generative AI, just a heads up, you'll have to give them your permission that you're using it, and it's also early access. But when you click on that, it will give you some information about like the what's like prohibited when you're using generative AI, etc. For this class, I would prefer you to not use generative AI. Um, you can use it to try it and figure it out, but for the assignments, I would prefer that you don't do that because when you use generative AI, you're like not really learning how to do the thing. It does it for you. So the most that you're learning how to do is to use the brush, but it really fills in things for you. So it's really cool. It's awesome. Like I think it's amazing what it can do, but it definitely takes out the job of what we're supposed to do as photographers who are editing and retouching images, which is on one end of the sword a positive thing, and on the other end of the sword it could take away what we do. So not trying to deny how amazing it is, but especially if you want to learn in this class, like I really want you to learn how to use these different tools on your own. Plus, when you do use generative AI, I can see it in your history that you've used it. So definitely something to explore and play with, but for your edits in this class, please try not to use it. Don't use it. Um, certain assignments will ask that I see your history and certain assignments won't. I definitely see it as a tool to use, and I think it's also hard for me to say don't use it when it's there. So definitely for this upcoming assignment, don't use it. Like definitely play around with it. I know I'm saying like a lot of contradictory things, but um, play around with it. I want you to explore it. I want you to know how to use it. I want you to know how it differs from these tools, and I'm going to show you how to use it and how it differs from these tools. But like I said, you're not really like learning these techniques and where they came from and the history of using this to how it got to generative AI, um, with just completely using it for everything. So yeah, take that for what you will. Um, and I could talk for an hour about generative AI, but yeah. Anyways, continuing on. So first thing we're going to learn here is these different tools. At the top here, there is the remove tool. There, next to that is a little band-aid called the heal tool, and the next to that is a little clone stamp called the clone tool. So we'll be using these three different tools. These are also tools that stem from Photoshop. They are really different from Photoshop too. They've improved over the years, but I still don't really like some of them. I don't think they're as powerful. But then when you use generative AI, is anything really as powerful as that? Like it just really is wild what it can do. Um, but makes things editing wise very, very simple. You know, anybody could now retouch photo editing just because generative AI is that good. But again, my point is that you learn the tools and you learn how to do it yourself before going into something like this. So with that, let's start off with the first brush tool. So we'll get through generative AI and then I don't have to talk about it again. But remove. So if I just click on remove, don't check anything yet here. I'm going to go and zoom into my image and I want to remove this hat. So I'm going to go ahead again. If you don't know, maybe this is another class. Yes, we haven't used brushes yet. So left bracket, right bracket tool. I do not have a photo of what that looks like with me on this, but on your keyboard, the right bracket tool, you know what, let me just draw it for you. I'm just going to brush. I will show you how to do this brush a little bit better. But with the brush tool, your right bracket tool is going to look like this, and your left bracket tool is going to look like this. And these are on your keyboard. They're a little bit below the delete button on the right. And yes, so you can use your right bracket tool to make your brush larger. I had to double check, so you can make it larger. That's supposed to be a plus, not a cross, but plus. So you're making your, there we go, that's more of a plus sign. You're making your brush larger, and then the left bracket tool is to minus to make your bracket tool smaller. So undoing all of that. All right, back here. So with the remove tool, so again, like I said, right bracket tool makes it larger. You can see I can make it a lot bigger, and I can make it a lot smaller with the left bracket tool. So I'm gonna get like a decent size, like your brush. Let's say if I wanted to remove this and I just went like this, bloop, well, let's try it. I can make it as big as the object. Maybe it will do a pretty good job. You know, Lightroom has gotten a lot better these days in terms of the brush tool. And not great. So I'm gonna undo that. Just Command Z to undo on a Mac computer, or Control Z to undo on a PC. So Command hold that Z to undo for Mac, Control Z to undo for PC. So yeah, so what you want to do is you actually want to have like a smaller brush tool because we're making selections. So I'm going to make a small brush tool like this, and I'm going to try to remove this hat. And I'm just going to fill this all the way in like that. And it's going to do its best to content aware that information out. So it's basically finding information around the image to create what's missing. So they all kind of work similarly. Some of them work better than others, but for the example, I just used the remove tool. And I think it did a pretty good job. So you can see that you can see, like, let's see, let me move this around and then I can kind of like remove different areas, but I can bring it back over here. So I'm going to, oh, you know what? Before I get into that, this keeps popping up and going away when I move like this. So just so you know, there's the tool overlay right here for all of the brushes, and we can keep it on always to always see it, or we can just hit never. The thing that I love about Photoshop is that you never see where you selected, which can of course be a blessing or a curse. For Photoshop, the remove tool, what's the word? The healing, everything, it just works so well. It's so intuitive that you never have to see it. Um, yeah, it just does it really well. So, but with Lightroom, sometimes you do want to see it with certain tools because you want to see where it's selecting from, and that will make a little bit more sense in the future. But yeah, so either you can have always, never, selected, etc. So right now I'm gonna hit never because I don't want to see it, it's distracting. But yeah, you can see the before and after of what it tried to do when I removed it. And you can see the hat was there and the hat is not there. I can kind of see the shape though, like you can see the shape of where it was. So it's trying to remove that object, trying to blend in the background, but it looks like it's honestly copying from this. I see like a frame copying over, and I also see some brick, so I'm wondering where that's coming from. Um, oh, it looks like it's coming from here. So the brick here, the little frame down there, that looks like where it's copying from. So again, it's trying to select from the source of your image to try to find information to remove that object. So that is the remove tool, just as is, without generative AI, without object aware. Just another example, I'm going to make this even smaller, the brush, and I'm going to zoom in. Actually, I think the before and after view is a pretty good idea, so you can see the before and after. But let's say if you want to remove it and you just went like this and select it around the object, it's not going to work because it's selecting around it. It doesn't have enough information. So that's why you need to fill it in. So make sure that you're filling in the whole object. So like this would not work. You got to fill in the middle. I'm just clicking, holding, and dragging. And then it seems to pull some lights. That looks a little bit more believable than the other one. So again, to undo, Command Z, or Control Z on a PC, Command Z on a Mac. And then from there, you also don't have to Command Z. You could go back, but visually, as I'm starting to see things, I just prefer to do it that way. And then, so that's a remove tool. It does like an okay job. Let's see what the healing brush does. So the healing brush does, like we can think about this, remove is going to remove the whole object and replace it with other information as if that object was never there. Healing is going to blend the object, but sometimes healing can also do a great job at removing. Cloning is going to clone away that object or add an object on top, thus cloning that object. So they can all be used to remove objects or to hide or heal. They can all be used in a certain way like that. But like, let's say, for example, skin, that's where healing is derived from, healing the skin, retouching the skin. So if you have like texture or anything happening in the skin, or maybe you want a mold to remove on the skin, you would heal that away. So that's where healing comes from. And then clone stamp comes from literally like cloning a face onto another face, for example. Remove tool, just getting rid of that object completely. So those are the differences between the three, but they can all do similar things. So now moving to the healing brush tool. So you can adjust the size, less feathering is going to be a harder brush, more feathering is going to be a softer brush. Opacity is going to be how much solidness you are trying to create with your brush versus if you have middle opacity, that's going to be like 50-50 transparent. And then opacity all the way is going to be completely like there's no information there. So for example, let's just show you really quick I'm going to get a bigger brush with my right bracket tool. And I'm going to use the healing brush. And again, you want to make sure you're getting all the information. So the whole circle that I've used is full. There's no blank spots in there. And my feathering is off and my opacity is all the way to 100, so it's fully solid. So it looks like it got some of the street reflection there. Um, and you can see it's like kind of blurry. It doesn't look very believable, right? Because it's like maybe it kind of looks like this like hazy light at the top, but it's not that believable. So I'm gonna undo again, and then let's take the opacity all the way down. I just want to see what happens. Exactly what I thought. Nothing happened because when you take the opacity down, it has nothing to grab onto. Again, that's fully transparent. So if I do this at 50%, and I will just add the numbers here, 50. So let's see what 50% does. 50% removes it 50%. Yeah, so not great for this brush tool. Just wanted to show you exactly what that means. So we want it all the way solid. Feathering, let's try that out, see how it looks. You can see the brush is a lot bigger. It actually blends it a little bit better. So it looks a little bit more realistic than before. It's definitely softer and not as like harsh of a selection. So yeah, maybe feathering more of your brush would be good to go for this. Especially like, for example, yeah, it depends what the skin, like if you're retouching someone's skin, it really depends how their skin is. If they have like, depending on the lighting, maybe their skin appears more soft. You would use a feathered brush so that it can blend better. Or if you have skin with a lot of like texture, maybe and you wanted to keep that texture but add it in to cover something else, you would maybe use a harder brush and take the feathering all the way down so you can keep that texture there. So yeah, I'm gonna keep my feather all the way. Oh, we liked the feather, so I'm gonna keep it all the way up and try this again. So I'll do a better job. I'm gonna make a smaller brush. And you're watching this video and you're like, that's not better. Yeah, it's not better. I guess feathering will work better with a larger brush here because you're trying to capture all the area. So maybe I'll make my brush bigger. Yeah, definitely getting a lot of different mixed results. So if we go full solid brush, no feathering, it's trying to heal that out, like it's trying to blend the objects together. And every time we do it, it looks different. So as you can see, it has a lot of variety. It's not that consistent. There's, with each brush stroke that you use, it's going to change. And also when you are using brush strokes, like you want to make sure you're fully making solid, like circles, like every shape that you make will affect how your brush stroke comes out. So like if I were to do something like this, that's how the area that I'm selecting will look like. So that's why you always want to have like a solid shape happening. So yeah, let's try that again. I just want to show you. I have this on set to never, but let's go to always, and now you can see where it's selecting from. I'm going to zoom out. So you can see I was right, it's selecting from the street. Um, and I'm going to get out of Y view. So now if I move this, pay attention to the top part here. If I move this around, you can see that I can change where it's grabbing from, which is very much like the clone tool. So I'll show you that in a second. But now it looks like it's just, really cloning things in. And if I hit never, as in I don't want to see the brush stroke. There we go. It finally went away. You can see that it's cloned in, like it looks like a clone of what is down below. It's like kind of feathered out, but not really. And yeah, you can also use it as a clone tool. So I just wanted to show you where and how things, like how it's picking from things and how you can move that around. So I'm gonna click this, and you can also, to delete, instead of undoing every time like I just did, you can click on the the selection. Let me just make a couple more selections so you can see. So I'm going to remove heal a couple things. And as I'm doing that, you can see, I'm just randomly doing this. You can see every time it tries to select a certain area to grab from. So if I hit never, I will not see these at all. But if I hit selected, or rather always, then I can grab from these different brushes. And you can see like once again, I'm on always here for the tool overlay. Once I kind of hover over them, they will activate. So you can see that there's a line there. So if I want to remove it, I can click on it, hit delete, and it will trash itself. So it will throw itself in the garbage and disappear, which is kind of fun, right? Very much like a cartoon. So that's another way that you can remove your selections. I want to try that with the remove tool. So yeah, if I click on this, hit delete, it will trash itself. So yeah, you can do that instead of doing Command Z or Control Z, if that works better for you. So that is a healing tool. And then lastly, this is the clone tool here. So the clone tool, let's say I want to clone something. Really, the clone tool is like you're only going to use that for the clone, for wanting to clone something. So let's say if I do want to clone this brush, or I'm sorry, this hat with the brush tool. It's cloning from the area next to it, so it's trying to find an area that's similar. And if I turn this to never, you can see that it's pretty, like you can see that the pattern repeating here. So it's really not that believable, but honestly, if you kind of went in, let's see if I can make this blend a little bit better. So if I did the clone tool and then on top of that, I used oh, you used to be able to do both at once, but I guess you are not able to do that now. So interesting. They always make so many changes to this, but you used to be able to make a clone and then on top of that add a healing brush. I'm trying to make sure I'm not missing anything. But now as I toggle through them, it's the same selection, but it's like each tool doing a different thing. So yeah, so I guess you'll just have to use the brushes as is. But, and every time it changes. Okay. So yeah, so I'm just gonna go back to clone and I'm going to go to always, and then I'm just gonna click it and it started to select from over here, which is interesting. But before we had it kind of like by the trees. But as you can see, as I move around with the clone tool, it really is cloning the object. Like the object is really clear. It's not trying to blend anything. So I can kind of move that around and then I can hit and trash it. But let's say, oops, that was a mistake. What do I want to clone from here? Let's say I want to add another hat. So I want to add another hat over here. This is empty space. So if I wanted to clone this over here, I'm actually going to make a circle and then it's going to try to grab something, but I'm going to take this other side and I'm going to move it to where I want it to clone from. And as you can see, not great. Like, it's really a clone stamp. It doesn't do a great job in Photoshop when you take um, the next level to this course, or if you ever play with cloning in Photoshop, it's much better. You can have a lot more control with it. And yeah, this one is just, you know, not doing the best job. Especially because if you want to clone somewhere, you're like you're kind of guessing what is the shape here. And then it's going to try to figure out what you want to do, which is often the wrong thing. And then you can replace it with something else. So really not realistic at all. Um, Still, I think the clone tool, no matter the functions that have evolved in Lightroom, I still think the cloning tool is not great in Lightroom. So that's how you use the cloning tool. And let's see if, I think I just tried this, but I'm going to try to remove this with the clone tool and see how it does. And we just did that. But you see how it will randomly select an area. Actually, I think it's trying to match the cactus to the cactus here. So not a bad call, but still not believable because the issue with cloning is that in order to get away with it, you have to make the viewer believe that you haven't created this pattern. And what's happening is there's another pattern right next to it. So it's easy to see that you cloned something. All right, so going back to this brush, the remove tool, now we can play with generative AI. Again, you have to say that you want to use it, and you don't have to use it at all, but I just wanted to show you because I'm doing this for you. I'm going to show you generative AI for this class, but I've honestly stayed away from it because it freaks me out. I know it's really cool, but like coming from years and years and years of editing photos and all the hard times that I've had with you know, doing edits over edits, trying to make things perfectly retouched. And now there's a tool that just does everything that my blood, sweat, and tears can have done before. It honestly just feels like, wow. Um, Again, double-edged sword. Either you like it or you don't. But I already accepted the permissions for generative AI. And yeah, so let's click this one first. And then when I use this remove tool, same thing. It's going to give you that type of look. You want to fill it in, but then it turns into a mask. And that's kind of what we're going to get into the next part here. So this mask then is showing you what you selected. You can either add or subtract. So far, I found that adding and subtracting kind of do the same thing. Maybe it's my particular image, but I'm just going to subtract because I'm saying I want to remove it. So you can also add, and it's going to add another object onto that, which in turn also removes it. So it's a little confusing, but I'm just going to hit subtract, and I'll keep the size as is, and then hit apply. And it's going to generate something for me. And wow, where did this pull from? Okay, I can't really tell. And actually, this did the worst job out of how it did it before. So maybe I have too many masks on top. I don't know. I'm gonna reset my whole image and try this again. So let's generative AI that and subtract, click apply. So the red mask, like I said before, that's showing you what you removed. Now it did a much better job. So I think because I had so many spot corrections on this before that it like did not know what to do and therefore gave me a really bad mask. But now you can see it removed it really well and it actually replaced it with this cactus shape here. And it's pretty believable. Honestly, it's amazing, which makes me feel happy and upset. It is really amazing, but I think just because of my background, I come from like never having this ever, and some of you are growing up with generative AI. Um, some of the future will only know what generative AI is. So yeah, definitely just a lot of differences there, but that's why I'm uncomfortable with it, and um, it is pretty amazing. Like it just made that cactus. So I'm going to undo that again, Command Z. And then if you select Object Aware and you click that on, now I'm going to then again select this hat And what it's going to do, it's actually going to select the object much better. It's not just the brush of their shape. You can see that it tried to really outline the hat for me. And I'll click subtract again and apply. And I missed a point that I was about to say in just a bit, but now you'll see it. So watch the history as this is generating. Now it says new gen new gen remove spot. And it added a cactus with a little flower on there. How and where did it get that from? Unless it just generated it completely. Um, so far, I am not seeing any cactus with that flower. So yeah, I think it fully generated, unless I'm missing something, it might have just fully made that up from a different image that it has in its resource. Yeah, so there's a cactus with a flower on top. Um, and that is object aware. So I'm going to reset my settings again. I want to try this. I wonder if just the multiple additions of things that I've been doing has made it not able to select properly. But before, when I did this, generative AI alone and generative AI with object aware did pretty much the same thing in terms of replacing the cactus. So like I said, the object aware basically selects the object better. And yeah, then it made a new one again. So interesting, very interesting. Okay. Actually, I brought that back. To add again is Command Shift Z, or Control Shift Z. That's to redo. Undo is Command Z or Control Z on a PC. Command Z for a Mac, and then to redo is Command Shift Z on a Mac and Control Shift Z on a PC. So that's how I did that. But to redo again, as you can see, I can see what has been done here in the history with the new gen remove spot. So I can see when you've done that. Um, so take that with what you will. But yeah, it kind of made this other cactus shape, which I think is also not believable. Um, all right. So now I just want to try object aware alone without generative AI. And basically what this object aware does is it is just like understanding the object and masking it better than if you were to do it just with a brush. And it tries to remove it on its own. So I think that's also pretty convincing. And it's not using generative AI here. It's only using generative AI when you select that. But if you just do object aware, it's still selecting from areas around. So I'm going to keep this on and I want to see where it's selected from, if it will show me. And unfortunately, I don't think it does, but it basically just blended it pretty well. So I'll turn this to never again and see. I don't think I would be able to notice that from afar. And also, with so many things going on in this image, it could just be a reflection. So it does a pretty good job. All right. So you've learned those different tools. Again, I would prefer you not to use generative AI, though I think it is maybe not important is not the word. It is good to play with it and get comfortable with it just to know what it does, but it's also really great to be able to know how to remove things properly on your own with these different tools. All right, so I'm gonna I'll give you some more examples in the next one, the next images here, but um, let's move on to the mask. So I'm going to do, yes. So for this image, I want to remove the sky, or actually, sorry, not remove. I want to select the sky. So I'm going to go to mask over here, this button, and then you can either add a new mask, subject, sky, background. These are really cool too. And these are technically AI as well. Yes, you can see that it's AI. I think this AI is okay. I think it does a pretty smart thing. And a couple of years ago, before like generative, so this is AI, but not generative AI. And if you think about it, like even the healing brush is kind of AI, right? Because it's not like we're removing the thing. It's kind of cloning and or not the word cloning. It's selecting certain areas around the image to then remove or heal out those things. So I do enjoy selecting subject, sky, background, especially in Photoshop. They have a select subject, which was like game changing for me before generative AI came out. And I thought that was really cool because there's used to be a time back in my day where you would, if I wanted to select this person, I would have to use a brush to select all of them very, very carefully. And now you can just select the subject with this button. Or with the sky, I would have to brush this all the way in. And let me just show you. So with the brush tool, I just selected the brush. I'll go over this more in depth in a second. But yeah, I would have to stand here, sit here, and go like this and select the sky and be really careful about what I'm selecting. And then go inside of this little area and try to fill in this guy right here and this guy right here. I hope that makes sense. So that's what we used to have to do. But now, the future, you can just click sky and it's detecting it for you. So it's creating a mask. So you can see this is also derived from Photoshop, but it's creating a mask. So what you see in white is what it has selected. But doesn't do the best job, does a pretty great job, saves you time, but I can still see that this is part of not the sky and this, like it kind of missed this area. So then if I wanted to then bring that back, I could go into this mask and there it is. All right, so I go into the mask and let's say I want to add to this or subtract it. You can either add or you can subtract into the specific mask. So I'm going to subtract and I'm going to go subtract with a brush, and then I can bring these elements back in. So this is like a pastime. Again, not great, I know, but I'm trying to bring these elements back in that have disappeared. So these will not be part of the sky. But you can see like this is the shape of my paintbrush. It's not really the shape of the roller coasters in the background. So if I really wanted to take my time with this, it would take a while to bring this back. So I'm just trying to bring back the parts that the AI got wrong. Oops, like right here, the Ferris wheel is definitely deep in there. So I'm gonna use the navigator tool to grab where I need to be, make the brush bigger, and I'm subtracting. And then if I want to add again, I'll just go back to plus, and then I'll go to add brush, and then I can add the mask in further. So I'm actually going to erase that again, remove the brush. And I just want to show you what the brush does, or I'm sorry, what the select sky does. So now that I've selected the sky, I can then change the exposure of it. So I could basically, add back some lightness to the sky. I know this looks really fake, but as just as an example, you can see that the sky, if I reset this, it was really dark before, and then I can actually like lighten that up. Though I know that looks pretty fake. So yeah, that's what that can do. Let me find another image that might be a better example of the sky. I'm gonna go back into project one and sure, let's bring this image in. I'm gonna right click, make a virtual copy, and then bring that virtual copy into my retouch folder. And then now I'm going to go into the mask, select the sky. And then from there, as you can see, I did a really great job because there's not so much information there. Like even between these trees, it does a really great job. Like for example, this, could you imagine just doing that with a brush? It would take forever. So this is something that I can respect out of AI for sure. It does an amazing job. I think we only need like help with selections. I don't know if we necessarily need to use it to replace the thing that is actually in the photo. But that's just my own opinion. So yeah, so now I can adjust this and I can make it look like a lot darker. I can make it more saturated. I know this isn't great. I'm just wanting to show you like what it can do just for fun, right? So we could do something, ooh, like spooky season, kind of like that. So that's select sky, all right? And then from there, you can play with all the different options as you have been able to play with before. And you can then change the color of that object. So another thing, well, I'll get to that in a second. Or actually, I think this is valid, but in your assignment, you'll most likely have to brush something in, or if you ever have to brush something in to change the color. What you would do, so I've selected the sky, but now I need to add a new mask. So I'm going to click the little plus button and I'm going to go plus brush. So now I'm going to select some of these pumpkins using the navigator tool. I'll find some. This one looks like a good one. And I'm going to go ahead and paint it in. So yes, we've got your brush tools and I'm going to go ahead and click on the size. I'm just wondering why I can't like not feather it out. Oh, as I'm going, this is a good thing to remember is that um, this looks just like your basic editing tab, but it's not. If you scroll all the way down, your basic editing tab is down here. So anything you do to that is actually going to adjust your whole image. Make sure you're staying in the mask edits, which is up here. You'll also see brush A and brush B. I don't know why I can't adjust my, oh, there we go. Click this little arrow. This is where you can adjust your feather, etc. So I don't really want a feather. I'm going to turn the feather off and go ahead and brush this in. So I'm going to try to change this pumpkin. And then I'm going to, like, let's say I wanted to get rid of this little part that I messed up. I went out of bounds here. I can click erase and then get that away. And I can bring this little stem back. So this is brush A. And then from there, I can actually, you know what? I'm going to go and add another pumpkin. Let's add this one over here. I'm going to add this. And again, if I go out of bounds like that, whoops, I can go back up here, go to erase, and bring this back in to the regular without the brush. Whatever you're making with the red mask, that's what you're changing. And then remember to go back to, like if you see brush A, these are all the settings. Brush B, I could then change like that. And then brush A would still keep all the settings. So, right, brush B has a bigger size, brush A is a smaller size. So I hope that's clear. It has a different effect. So that is how I misread how I was used to doing it. But yeah, I'm sorry about that. Brush A and brush B, they are just literally two different brushes that you can use, but they apply the same effect. Just one you could make softer and the other one you could make like a harder brush. But if you wanted to do two different colors, so let me go back. I would have to make a new brush mask. So that's what I'm going to do. So this is brush A. I changed those pumpkins to pink, and I actually want to do something. better. There we go. So now they're more intense. You can really see them pop. Now I want to color this one. If I were to use my brush, it's going to do the same effect. So I'm going to make a new mask, hit brush, and then there I can go to this little pumpkin over here, fill that in. Again, erase if I need to around this area. For time's sake, I'm just going to keep it like that. And then I can then adjust, go back to here and adjust the temperature. So if you're using the brush tool, you will have to play with the different effects to make the paint color brighter or darker. And then I'm going to actually brighten this in. Sorry, color this in a bit. Okay, just for an example. So now you can see the different settings that I've made, different colors I've made for this pumpkin over here. And yeah, there you go. So you've got the pink pumpkins, the sky selected, and then the blue pumpkin. So to have different colors of the pumpkins with different brushes, you will have to add a new mask every time for a different color, which is something you'll be doing in your assignment. So just keep that in mind. And sorry about the mix up there. All right, next part here. This is how you can select a subject. So you can go ahead and click select subject and it will know what to select. So we have a lot of different subjects here, but it will know to select the person. So if I click subject, it will then go in and select the subjects right there, which is pretty wild. And then from there, I can change just the subjects alone. And let me just change the color so you can see how it selected that. So it does a really great job selecting the sky, selecting subjects. You know, with the pumpkins that you just saw, I was using the paintbrush and it's like really hard to be very detailed. A lot of times when we do this professionally with editing, we'll have like a little drawing tablet called a Wacom or a Wacom, and you can use that to use a pen, kind of like an iPad little pen. You could use that to then draw it in. And that's how you would do it rather than kind of using a mouse or using the touchpad. So that's how you could be more precise with it. But now we have these options in masking to select the subject. And then any additional mask you want to apply onto that, again, add a new mask. So like, let's say I just want to grab this area, I'm going to brush that in. So I'm going to click the plus symbol here, go to brush, and then I'm going to add a mask. And I'm just doing this with my touchpad. So it is not that great. Again, if you want to erase, you can hit the erase button. And I would spend a lot more time on this if I had more time, but I don't want to make this demo too long and it's already an hour. So wrapping up soon, but basically I selected that area and then I could make that area a lot darker. You can just apply different effects to different parts of your image like so. And then if I wanted to make this area lighter, I would go in with another brush. So I'm sorry, another mask. Click here, click the brush, go in right here. And then let's say I make that area even brighter. So I hope that's clear. That's how you're using the mask. Everything you do, make a separate new mask. The A and B brushes, again, sorry to confuse you. That was my own confusion, but that really is like two different brush styles. Either you could have like a soft brush or a solid brush with A, but they're going to do the same. They're going to apply the same effect. So now if I have, right now my brush is A and it made the exposure really intense here, I could go to then B, make the feather super intense and make the brush a lot bigger, and I could do that, and that's brush B, but it's applying the same effects that are on that mask. You can see the two masks right there, that little line and that circle. That's both of my masks there, but with two different brushes. And then again, my edits are really chaotic. I'm just doing that so you can see the difference. This is not how I would actually edit my photos. So yeah, we went over those three things. There's also background, and I don't have any examples for that, but play around with that if you'd like. Like, let's say um, you have a subject. Okay, so actually, let's undo this. I'm going to reset this and show you. So let's say I want to select the background. I guarantee it's going to select everything, yep, except the subject. So I could use that and then just take down the exposure, and then my subjects are, in focus. Or I could change the color of the background, and then my subjects are in focus. Versus select subject, but select the foreground. Or on top of that, I could then also add another mask and select subject, or they have another one here called select people, and that can select both. Interesting. This is the first time I'm also seeing that. Um, you know what, for ease, because I honestly have not worked with that one that much, I'm just going to go to plus select subject, and then it's going to select these two, but it also selected these areas, which is kind of interesting. So I'll just go back and then minus and hit brush. And then on top of that, I can get rid of the areas that is selected besides the people. And then from there, I can bring up their exposure, change the color, etc. And it's only affecting them and not the background. And then if I wanted to go back to the background, I could click on the background and then change the background like that. All right, so I'm just going to review and make sure I covered everything I needed to. And I believe I have. So that is everything for today on the different functions. So good luck, have fun, play with the different tools. Again, these are just like really dramatic examples. I wouldn't necessarily edit my photos this way, but it's just for you to see and for you to experiment with. But yeah, good luck with retouching, and let me know if you have any questions.